Okay, now let's see what's under cost and profit. This is different. So here I have some more scorecards. Some of them we've already seen: transactions, average order value, revenue. We already can guess, yeah, these are from Google Analytics, but projected average order value, projected revenue, I don't know. What are these? Where are they coming from? We will figure out. Cost of goods sold, ad cost, ad management, fixed overhead, shipping, total costs, profit, projected profit. We don't have these in Google Analytics. So how we can create these scorecards, how we can calculate these numbers, how can we add this slider to allow the user to adjust something that seems to be average order value increase in percentage, and then every number will be calculated again. So this is something that we want to do it right now in the second page of the report. So let's take a look at it. We already have the same header, right? The logo, the title, and the dates range selector. And we have transactions, average order value, and revenue. Let's start with these three scorecards because these are easy peasy. We go back to edit mode. We already know that whenever we want, we can copy paste. So transactions, average order value, and revenue. I'm going to copy them, navigate to the second page of the report, paste them, and just move them around just a little bit to the side. So now we have these three sorted. Let's go to the header. I want the logo and I want the data in selector and the title. So one thing that I can do is to again select the logo and the data in selector, copy them and paste them over to page 2. But chances are, if I want to go and add more pages to this report, I want the logo to be shown on all these pages anyway, and maybe also the data in selector. So instead of copy and pasting them to the second page, I click on this one, I right click, and I make it report level. It will become global. The border changes from blue, which is for page level components, to purple, report level component, to show that it's a global object. It appears on page 1, page 2, and any other page that you happen to add on this report. If I move it from here to here on one page, it will move on the other page too. And on this one, I can bring it back to where it's supposed to be, okay? So these are report level components, report level objects. I'm going to click on the date range as well, right click, make it report level, so it will be accessible on the other page as well. But e-commerce report, I cannot do it because I wanted to say something else. I wanted to say cost and profit. So this one I actually need to copy and paste it over here, move it around, double click, and change the title. So the bases are covered. Now it's some more harder parts. First of all, we have projected average order value, projected revenue. Don't know how to calculate these. And we have this one, average order value increase. And we have some other things here. Let's start with these ones. So average order value increase. This is the first time on this report that I'm viewing the report. The viewer of the report have anything to say about the numbers. I can change the date range, but the numbers are going to be extracted from Google Analytics again. So the data source is somewhere else. I don't have access to change those data. I can filter out, exclude, include, change date, but I cannot change the actual numbers. Here, there is a number, the increase in terms of percentage in average order value, that I can actually change it. I can change the number. This is the collect part. This is where we get a value from the user so they can have a say on the numbers of the report. So let's create this one. The method of doing this in our report is by creating a parameter. The fields, the dimensions, and if I scroll down, the metrics, which are blue and are shown by 1, 2, 3, these are actually coming from the data source somewhere on the internet, from the data connector, but we can also add a parameter, okay? So add a parameter. The name of my parameter is AOV, average order value, increase percentage. I cannot have percentage in the parameter ID, so I will change it to PCT. It's a whole number from maybe 1 or 0 to 200. We can have 200% increase, so it is okay. So whole number and within a range. So the range would be from minimum 0. I would set it to 200. We can have other values as well as the maximum. And I can give it a default. So whenever the report loads, there is a default value already selected. I can put 10%, for example, here, okay? So I'm saving it. And suddenly, at the end of the list of fields in here, At the absolute end, it's always after dimensions and metrics. I can see this parameter, which is highlighted in kind of pinkish purple color, which says average order value increase. Okay. I can also search for it. So if I search for it, it will appear here as well. But now it's here, and we know already that the default value for this one is 10%, but how can we allow the user to select and change the value of this parameter? That is through another control, which can be an input box, or it can be a slider. We can have both of these, right? Now, the slider, Google Data Studio just didn't understand which field to apply to it. So I'm going to search for AOV, the parameter that I just created, drag it and drop it under the control field, right? Average order value increase. Because it has a minimum and maximum, I can increase it from anywhere from 0% to 200%. And by default, it is 10 to 10%. I can click on it and change it to any number that I like 25%. Okay, everything changed. They refresh, but there is no change in the value of these scorecards because they are coming directly from Google Analytics. This still doesn't have any impact on these ones. And this one, I can also apply to this, and this allows me to enter the value directly. So I can enter 180, and this one changes to reflect the change of the same parameter because these are connected to the same parameter. I'm going to keep the slider only to match with our demo report. And now I want to use it. I want to use this value. So the viewer can view the slider, they can select the value. Let's use it somehow. Okay. So first thing, I'm going to click on this, copy this, paste it, another scorecard, and I want to change the background. It is optional, but I want to distinguish the one that is calculated based on parameter from the rest. So I make it green in the background. Under the data tab, I'm going to reset the comparison period to none because it doesn't make sense. Data studio doesn't allow me to do it. Okay, yep, it's now set to none. And now, instead of average order value, I need to calculate something. I need to calculate the projected average order value. If I click here, I cannot find anything like projected. So this is not one of my fields. I can see the parameter AOV, but maybe it doesn't even allow me to put AOV. I can find it here, but it's the value of 20. It's not the increase. So I need to create a field. This is the first time that we're creating a field by calculating something from the data that we already have. Okay, so let's call it projected average order value. And the way I'm going to calculate it is that I have my average order value from data, right? Average order value from Google Analytics data. To project it, I need to multiply it. For example, now that I have 20% increase, I have to multiply it by 1.2, which is the same average order value with 20% increase. But this is a static number. So I need to construct this 1.2 with some kind of formula. So parentheses for the order of operation, 1 plus. Now I need to create 0.2 using 20. That would be average order value, increase percentage, the value of that parameter at that exact time, whatever users provided or whatever is default, divided by 100, right? So this will be 20%, 1 plus 20%, 1.2, and it will be multiplied by the actual average order value from our live data. And it will not be a number, it should be a currency. So I can change the type of the field, change it from numeric to currency, scroll down, choose US dollars, and apply. Now we will have the projected average order value based on actual values and the average order value increase entered by the user. Same we can do with revenue. So now copy and paste it, the scorecard, okay? I'm going to click on the FX, which allows me to change the function, projected revenue. I already have the formula for projected average order value, right? Now, what is revenue? How we can calculate revenue? We know the number of transactions times average order value in Google Analytics at least is revenue. So if I put transactions here and multiply it by the calculation that I already had, which calculates projected, the new average order value, I should have the projected revenue. And because I copy and paste it is already set to currency US dollars. So when I click on it, I will have my new revenue. So current revenue, projected revenue. This is a great tool for kind of talking through a strategy and what if scenarios. What if we invest in a program, in a campaign, in some kind of marketing activity, in some kind of new strategy for pricing or bundling products, so that we can increase our average order value by 50%. What does it mean for our revenue? What will be our revenue based on what we actually had in a previous date range? Okay, so it allows us to perform this calculation, have projection.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
Yeah. So why would you do the multiplication of transactions plus the projected average order value times the AOV increase versus just doing revenue and the AOV increase? Is there a difference in the accuracy? No? Okay.
No, there's no difference. So whatever format we can write the calculation that makes sense, it will work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to our sample dashboard to see what else do we want to create. Now we want cost of goods sold, ad cost, ad management, fixed overhead, shipping, total cost. They're not available in Google Analytics. We should get them from somewhere else. And it is a third-party data source. It's a kind of offline maybe data source. It can come from your accounting, from your marketing, it can be entered manually. So for this purpose, I've created a Google Sheet, right? This Google Sheet, we are seeing that this hypothetical business for each date, so 1st of January, 2nd of January, they have entered manually the actual cost of the goods that they sold, the amount that they paid for shipping, the fixed overhead for their business. Maybe they had it monthly, they just divided it by the number of days in a month, or they have a daily overhead that they just entered here. The amount that they paid for ad management and the amount that they paid for ads, okay? So these values, the business actually entered them from 1st of January up to actually today. So we have access to a Google Sheet with the data that we want. One dimension containing different categories, which is date right now, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metrics, values, okay? And here we have 5 values. So let's create. We already had data from Google Analytics, right? We can see it here. Whenever nothing is selected, we can see data. And if I click on this, I can see data that is added, data sources that are added to this report right now is just one master view from Google Analytics. There are available data sources, the one that I've created before or shared with me, I have access to, right? Or I can add data. So I'm going to click add data, which is basically the same as clicking add data here, but I'm going to click here because this is new interface. And this time, instead of Google Analytics, because my data is in a Google Sheet, I need a Google Sheet Connect. Wherever your data is, you need that same connect. Clicking on Google Sheet, I can see a list of all the Google Sheets that I have access to. I can click on this one, sample cost data, and I can select the worksheet. So if this one had many more worksheets, I could have selected different ones from here, but this is only one. So I select it and I click add, and it will going to ask me again, if I really want to add this to my report. Yes, I do want to add it to my report, and it will be added. Right now, if I select here, added data sources, Google Analytics and Google Sheets, okay? Now let's start creating some more scorecards quickly. And I'm not going to start from this one. I'm going to just copy this one, paste it here because it already has these tiles that I want. Okay, a little bit. I need to change the data source first. This is still connected to Google Analytics. I need to change the data source. Okay, I click on this. I select sample cost data, sheet number 1, and now I have my data. It shows the count of records that I don't want. We have 14 days selected. There are 14 rows that match within this date range. So date range from 28th to 10th of April. There are 14 rows here, right? Between those 2 dates. That's why it says the record count is 14. But this is not what I'm interested in. I want cost of goods sold, and I have it. But here we can see that it's a kind of a compact format, right? Because I want it to be a little bit smaller. So this is something that we can adjust under the style tab, compact numbers, and it says 28.3K, but it still doesn't have the dollar sign. So I need to click on the pencil sign, a pencil icon, and change the type of this scorecard from numeric to currency. I can scroll down and choose US dollars, and it's done. Okay. Now I can copy and paste it and maybe make it a little bit more smaller from right now. Okay. The next one is ad management. The next one would be what? Ad cost, fixed overhead. But as we can see, these are still not currency. So we need to change these as well. For this one, I clicked on the metric pencil icon here on the chart level and change it to currency. But if I click on the pencil icon of the data source itself, it shows edit data source. So I can change the type of the number on the data source as well. And if I do it here, it will be central. If it apply to any other chart or scorecard or trend line or table that we add this metric to. And this is a better way of managing the types of different metrics. So here, for example, ad cost, ad management, if I change them from here to currency, from numeric, then they will be changed on all pages, on all of the charts on this report as well. I'm going to change the cost of goods sold as well, and also these two. Doesn't work. Again. Okay. Now if I click done, without doing anything under the scorecards, we can see that a dollar sign appears close to each one of these dollars. Okay, so these are all these right. Now let's go back to the demo report. We have total cost. Again, this is a value that we do not have in this data source, right? We have all the singular costs, but we don't have the total. So let's copy, let's paste, and actually let me again change the background to show that this is something else. And this time I want to calculate the total. Click here, I don't have total, I'm going to create a field, okay? And this time I can also create this field at the data source level, right? I don't want it to create it here, just like we changed the currency at the data source level, the type of the field at the data source level. I'm going to add a field at the data source level. And that's by clicking here, just like we added the parameter. Now we are adding a field at the data source, and it will be available everywhere on this report and on every other report that we connect to this data source. So it is total cost of goods sold plus what else? Ad management plus ad plus fixed overhead plus shipping. Okay. And I can sum them together. In this case, the sum is not needed. I cannot get to the details of why, but we can continue. And this is the kind of best practice of actually enclose it in a sum function. And we'll talk about that in the later sessions of Data Studio Masterclass. Done. And total cost should now be available over here, but I don't have it. So I need to refresh my report so I can see the new field that I've just created. Okay, it's here. I can select this as a scorecard, select total cost, drag it over, and I have my total cost. Now, again, this time I'm lazy. I'm not going to go back to the data source. I'm going to change the currency exactly on the scorecard itself, which is a bad practice. Do not do that. Okay. So we have everything except these two, profit and projected profit. Now, how can we make these two? You might think to yourself that, okay, easy peasy, just like total cost. We have revenue, we have total cost, we deduct total cost from revenue, and we have our profit. It's the correct formula, right? But we cannot simply do that. Why? Let's try it. So this one, I'm going to copy and paste it, put it here, change the background to blue, again, to identify that is a new type of calculation. Okay. Remove the comparison. Okay. Which basically didn't do that. Why? I don't know. Apply it again. Okay. So we know that we don't have any field called profit in either Google Analytics or Google Sheet, but we know that we can click here and create a field and call it profit, and then it starts kind of revenue minus total cost. Okay. So Data Studio understands what total cost is, but it gives us an error. Unknown dimensional metric ID, revenue. I don't know what revenue is. Why is that? We have revenue here. We haven't renamed it. It's the actual name of the field in Google Analytics. It's connected to this report, but a calculation lives in a data source. This calculation, the profit calculation, lives in the Google Sheets data source where we are creating that calculation. And in the Google Sheets data source, we don't have access to revenue from Google Analytics. So whatever is at the top and whatever is at the bottom, they're coming from two different data sources. We cannot simply use different fields from different data sources in a single calculation whenever we want. We first need to merge them. We need to blend them. In Data Studio, we call it data blending, okay? So let's think about it. We need a data source that has three different metrics in it. A blended data source that has total cost, revenue, and projected revenue, because these are the three numbers that we need in order to be able to calculate profit and projected profit, okay? So how do we do that? The simplest form of data blending that I will cover today, and there's much more to data blending, but the simplest form is that you select the scorecards that contain the metrics that you want to use in your final calculation. You right-click, easy peasy, blend data, and a new scorecard appears. This one is connected to blended data. It is not connected to Google Analytics data, one master view. It is not connected to Google Sheet. It's connected to something new called blended data. If you click on it, you can see that, yes, total cost from Google Sheet, revenue from Google Analytics, projected revenue from Google Analytics, these are being cross-joined together. This is a join type. We have different join types in data blending. In this session, we cannot cover them all or the details of data blending, but just know that we are bringing three different metrics from three kind of different data sources. These two are the same, but they could have been three different data sources. We can do up to 5 and blend them together, create a blended data source, which only has three metrics. It doesn't have access to any other metric or dimension in Google Analytics. It doesn't have any access to any other metric or dimension in Google Sheet, unless if we add them manually here, which we're not going to do right now, but it has what we want, okay? So this one connected to blended data, I change the background color, and now in this one, I can do what I want. I can click on total cost, I can create a field, I can call it profits, the simplest one, okay? And I can call it revenue minus total cost, right? And it's a currency, right? Because I already have access to revenue and total cost in this blended data source. And I hit apply, and it will be calculated, and I have my profit based on the revenue that I made in this time frame and the total cost that I had in this time frame from two different data sources, okay? The second one, let me delete this one, move profit here, copy and paste it. So projected profit is basically the new revenue that we have, so the projected revenue, okay, minus total cost, which doesn't change when our average order value increases. Usually, we might want to implement any other more complicated logic behind the scenes, add more parameters. If we have, based on the marketing strategy that we want, we have to pay for bundling and more packaging maybe. But in this case, it doesn't, the total cost doesn't increase by an average order value increase. So to calculate the projected profit, I just need to change this, and well, minus total cost will be my projected. So this way, on view mode, we can look at the date range last month. We can consider maybe a marketing strategy that can hypothetically increase our average order value by 50%, which is a lot, and then see, based on our profit last month, if we implement this marketing strategy, how much more profit we would have made, right? So the difference is more than $100,000, and it might be feasible, depending on the cost of this marketing initiative, to actually try and implement to get this much more value next month, hopefully. Now that our report is ready, we have 2 pages, we have data coming in from Google Analytics, we have data coming up from Google Sheets, we're using parameters to get values from the user, performing calculations, total cost, projected values, and projected profit. Now it's time to share it with the end user of the report, because right now, yes, we're in view mode, but it is a simulated view mode for us, which are basically the editor of the report.